So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thursday, the 20th of November. Here we are on Bitcoin, currently, still looking a bit rough. Is obviously, you know what? There's not actually that much change since yesterday on a lot of these charts. So it might be a bit of a short one today, but um, yeah, still looks a bit rough. We're above the daily open, which is something, but we still have a lower low and a lower high as of right now. This is obviously the big block that you want to gain back, sort of like weekly open, yearly open. It's going to be big resistance, take us up to potentially like 95, 6, 96k, where the next block is, and then yeah, like here, and then potentially up into 100k. Sorry, but still in a downtrend, still making new lows, still making lower highs, potentially actually a little bit of a short here on the hourly that we actually have just come out of. Lose this daily open, and it's probably going to go down for another leg. I don't see this stopping right now unless we sort of like gain something here. I still don't see this stopping until at least 85k and potentially even lower. But yeah, we do have a lot of bullish divergence on the 4 hour. To keep that in mind. So the sort of like first time we do make a new high. So for example, say we come back down here. We do this. We come down into the lows. We test the lows like this, and then we come back up and we make a new high up to the yearly open, which closes above here. Then fine. But until that happens, you're just looking to short this and go lower. Really, it's market's very weak right now at the moment, and yeah, it's just not really that much change since yesterday on Bitcoin. Um, we'll see what happens once we get down to 85k if we do get that, or if we get a little local regain, like I just said. Either or will kind of be interesting to potentially play a little reversal, play a little bounce trade. But until then, it just looks really rough, doesn't it? Just looks really rough. I mean, ever since we broke down from the yearly open, this was the test. This was the lower high, the super bearish retest. Broke down, actually bearishly retested the yearly open as of right now. So, if this structure kind of doesn't really... I mean, if we don't see this very soon on the daily, this is going to go to 85k. With haste. What's everyone else thinking? I do think once we get down here, we'll probably see a significant bounce. But who knows? We'll see once we get there. I think as of right now, it's very, very safe to short the weekly open and the yearly open until we gain that back. I think that's kind of the only play, really. And that would kind of look something like... I don't know. Hopefully we get a little bit of a bounce up into here. Anyway, not that interesting on Bitcoin at the moment in time. At this moment in time. ETH. What's ETH doing? Had a decent short the other day. Didn't get on it, but definitely was the play. Take that off now. Take those off. I probably need them actually. Yeah, still looks rough. Kind of in this downside grindy. Obviously got a lot of bullish divergence. Same sort of thing that might be on the cards for ETH if we do make a new local high. We've actually got the very local high sitting at weekly open. So if we do that, then potentially there's a opportunity for us to go and test the yearly open, which is, I believe it's untested at this moment in time. Untested to the downside on ETH. But again, we are in this downside sort of grindy price action. These downwards channels, they do tend to break up more than they break down, and then the the up grindy channels tend to break down more than they break up. So there is that, but obviously the price action is still very much down. And yeah, it's just we're just in one of those phases, aren't we? So technically, the best trade was probably something like this from the new low, where you got caught on the 786 right here, and now you're actually failing the daily open. So if you're in that short, you're potentially just looking at a stop over here with your entry here, and obviously you probably got a few more stacked at the weekly open if you do sort of like do that and then fail. Hopefully you're basically looking for this to fail right now, and you know there's a potential actually little scalp if you go to the lower time frames, just from this local breakdown here, this local lower low. You obviously don't want to get above sort of like this block. So you potentially could look to short this area where it's just very, you know, like 1%-ish range. Again, I'm not really that keen on that. That's kind of like forcing something for me. This would have been the better one with some orders like set like laddered on the weekly open. But yeah, it's pretty much still the same as yesterday. Let's have a look at some of the slightly higher time frame metrics on Bitcoin and ETH. So I'm going to turn off auto charting tools. I'm going to put on liquidations and bans, and I'm going to obviously have this retail stablecoin demand on. Actually, I'll take those bans off because they're a bit hard to see. So if I was looking at this purely based off like indicators and what we're doing in the price action, I would say that this is definitely like just before the bounce structure where we do that downside grindy. We get all the bullish divergence on every time frame, and maybe we get one more pop to the downside if the long to short ratio is like really super long, just to lick everyone out of their position where like this lower liquidity is, or we just kind of like break up and like start ripping this stuff, maybe even up to here. But again, it's like it's very far off. We actually need to see like that first. It's just a potential possibility, like looking at some of these metrics. Even the daily time frame is kind of getting there as well, like super like oversold, green dot. Retail stablecoin demand not really that there yet. I mean, can actually have a look and see when were the last times we got to some of these sort of levels. Now, the retail stablecoin demand isn't like that reliable in terms of like when it hits a lower high, it means it's going to be a reversal. It's just potentially like a general area. So, for example, like here, this was not a general reversal bottom. We actually did one more and then had a little bit of bounce and then came down. So, not really. But another one here, 2 dips underneath where we are right now. Well, it's actually more like 25 is what you should be looking for. But I'm just talking about the sort of like level that we're at now. We had some bullish divergence down here. Another one down here just before this little pump. Another one down here. It's just in this flat before this big move up. Here, not really. Actually, it's more like there when we got the bullish divergence in. Here, it's actually more like there. So in this flat period, and then again here just before this little like last down and then this move up. So potentially kind of what you want to see here is you like want to see flat and then one more low, and then that bullishly diverges the retail stablecoin demand underneath, and then it comes back up. But yeah, anyway, it's kind of interesting to look at that. Maybe I'll have a look at Bitcoin quickly. It's probably going to be quite similar in terms of, yeah, daily super oversold. No divergence on the retail stablecoin demand on the daily. But the 12-hour, you know, this is getting very, very... like, I haven't seen this in a long, long time. the amount of liquidity that is to the outside. So as always, like, you just want to wait for something on the lower time frames, and then we can start targeting literally all of this stuff. Well, pretty much up to like 115. I'm not really sure we're gonna get too much higher than that. I mean, to be honest, we have to get above 100 to actually even talk about 115 anymore. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's in that uncomfortable zone to trade because we're quite low down, but we are still in a downtrend. You could have shorted here potentially, but then again, you know, take this long, do a little close up here, and then you're going to target all of this stuff like really quick. All this stuff on the hourly right here that we've just done this week is all like prime targets for liquidity grabs, all the way up to like 106. Anyway, Solana is going to be no change. Actually, this is kind of what you're waiting for. This is exactly what you're waiting for on altcoins. So if we just defer to the 4 hour quickly. And we'll put the most previous 4 hour close on, which would be here. You'll see that we've actually broke out and retested with a higher low. So from this high, we were still in a downtrend because we made a lower low. Still in a downtrend here, made an equal high. Then we made a higher low, which you couldn't really have bidded because you would have expected that to make a lower low there from here as you didn't make a new high. And now we made a new high. So now you're actually expecting this low to hold on the hourly that we've closed above. And yeah, you can even draw a fib there. So there's actually a decent trade on. And do you know what? Solana actually was the first one that was dumping, really. It kind of looked really rough first. I remember when we were looking at Bitcoin and ETH, and they hadn't lost the levels yet, but Sol lost $200 very quickly. This seems to be kind of turning around quite quicker. And that's exactly what we're looking for in these sort of like downwards trendy price action things. It's just something like this which you can play a little something off. So yeah, potential trade on Solana in between 133.5 and 131. Call it 131. Interesting. This volume up here is also not really that heavy. It's 1.7% of the volume. So we've got 4 and 5% down here, which are, these are sizably a lot bigger. And anyway, if you look at the Solana daily chart as well, we actually are very, very low down. And this daily seems to be trying to make a high close right here. So interesting stuff for sure. Got some nice bullish divergence as well in this area, especially if we're going flat. Bullish divergence is kind of gearing up, shall we say, for something like that. Interesting. So I'm probably just going to set an alert on the 786. And we'll have a look to the lows. We're looking at about 3%. So yeah, I might trade this on 2x and have half of my position size laddered in between the 786 and the 886 with a stop somewhere. You know what, the stop should be down here, but if I do half position size and ladder in, probably be something like 3% stop on 2x with a half position size. And then hopefully if it goes like this and then makes a new high, then I'll just rebid that new Stuber. And if it doesn't make a new high, I will TP and set my stop to break even with a half position size. Just because the range is slightly big for me. I'd usually go on 3x and then maybe full position size, but yeah. Just because it's the first like lower time frame trend change. Sometimes I do half position size, and then if we make a new high, that's when I do my next half. Or if I see that we are closing below on the lower time frames here, I'll market smash the last 50%. If it has like dipped down, just to like mitigate risk. Like if we're coming into it, I don't want to like catch the full position on a knife. But yeah, it's looking all right. It's actually something that, you know, potentially looks quite good for once. One thing that we were talking about last week, which was looking quite good, was Fartcoin. And in the similar sort of spirit, we were looking at this higher low and this higher high here, saying that we do have some sort of trend change. And again, this is the low, that's the high, that's where you pull from. Literally came right down into the... This would have been a perfect trade. Literally perfect. I unfortunately didn't take it, but, you know, one of you potentially were maybe able to, across this low, saying this is what we don't want to lose. And then this is the bid zone from weekly open all the way down to there. I know the risk is slightly high. You're looking at 3.5-ish%, and even if you're trying to catch it from like the weekly open to the wick, you're in a 3% sort of like down move trying to catch it. But yeah, if you managed to catch that, it would have been nearly 30% up from the AA6. So pretty much perfect. Apart from literally touching the low, but pretty much perfect. And actually breaking down off the weekly open on a 4-hour close, right? Yep, 4-hour close below. This is why you can't really, sometimes you can't trust one 4-hour close below, because it closed one 4-hour and then just blasted off. But yeah, that was actually something that was looking good, and it's still looking good. I think it's probably going to rip 34. Anyone managed to get that? What's up? Hey, Monkey.D. Hey, Cycle. Nice to see you in here. What's up? So yeah, that was the only good trade. And then Solana's also looking relatively quite good for a potential trade as well. But yes, shorts are still engaged. Asta, let's clean up this chart. Asta done a nice little SR flip, actually looking relatively quite good. Bullishly retesting the previous weekly open right here. A bit of local breakdown, very minor, from this high structure here where the daily open is. But as of right now, kind of holding this. It looks a bit okay. Definitely would be worth a bid at 1.15, like we said yesterday, if it does come down there. But yeah, really no change on that. What else did we talk about? We briefly talked about Injective, which didn't do the move that we wanted to do. Sorry, too many lines on this chart. Delete that one. So yeah, we were watching the 4-hour close yesterday on stream here. Didn't really get it. Got an hourly, but didn't close above, so wasn't really looking that good to me. Actually came down really and made a new low as well. So looking at still a bit neither here nor there. I'm actually still short from November. But this also starting to look like it's trying to bottom as well. So if I take all that stuff off, this also looks like the downwards grindy on Solana just before it did its new hourly high. So if you look at that, and you look at the hourly here, and then I go back to Solana, they look almost identical, although Solana has just done that little pop-up. So they look almost identical in this area. Solana, Injective, looking very identical. All it needs is that. And then you could engage something on this. But yeah, potentially, actually, you could even... Where did Injective go? Cool. Yeah, I mean, short this. Short this, do whatever you like. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I've got to talk about. I could obviously go through some of these other alts, like Sui, looking rough. Looking really rough. Might set an alert on the weekly open just to alert me if we do get up to this level. Potentially we'll be like breaking a new high, but obviously, again, you could short this because the direction of travel is down, and the most recent low is a new low. But I would just be a little bit cautious here. Obviously, you've got a nice little pocket in between the weekly open and the 786, with your invalidation closing above like 169 on Sui. So yeah, potential play. And then if you make a new high, then just bid this area that you were shorting, because it will be a potential some sort of bottom. Always defer to the 4 hour on your closes as well. Yeah, not really a whole lot of change since yesterday, to be honest. Hype, actually, we were talking about this, just being like, we're really in no man's land, and we actually did get a touch on the box that I drew out. Had a nice little bounce, actually, over some previous highs. Looks like it's want to go for the next one now. So we were talking about potentially that being the range. Looks like it might have been a decent one if it does go for the highs, about 15%. Not too bad. Again, really no change. Only on Solana is the only significant one. Link made a new 1 hour high, but won't be. Actually, he made a new 4 hour high as well on Link, so definitely Link something to maybe pay attention to now. Yep, made a new high, made a new close. Interesting. Do we have any levels? Some overlapping support at the lows, potentially. Potentially could be a bid, although the market is really weak right now. You could. I might just long and short something at the same time after this stream, to be honest. Like, if I'm looking at a link to hit here, I'll probably, like, what was the other one that we're looking at? I'll probably short Sui. Although, actually, no. I would want to get it on the 786. Anything else which is kind of like bearishly retesting its previous high, I might just like hedge. Like Doge, failing its weekly open right now. This could be a decent little scalp, at least down to the daily open, 2.5%, and then probably down to the lows. So yeah, just to like balance it out. Balance. But yeah, that's about it that I've all really got to talk about. Solana's actually starting, if we just briefly look over it again, it's starting to turn up, and this was actually one of the first ones to break down. So if we go back to what happened over, was it here or was it there, or maybe it was even further back? Yeah, was it end of September? So I think it was end of September where we were trying to establish some upside structure here. I believe that Solana was the first one to break down, or I'm not 100% sure. Oh no, maybe it was here. I don't know. I don't remember, but Solana was definitely the first one to break down, other than Bitcoin and ETH, which was looking slightly better. And now it's actually the first one to potentially start breaking up. So yeah, a little bit of an interesting one. This is definitely a valid setup in my eyes, as a reversal trade. Obviously, most of like Bitcoin and ETH are still in their downtrends and haven't broken it just as of yet. So be kind of cautious with that. Lots of resistance in between the yearly open and weekly open on Bitcoin at this moment in time. But you know, you can't really ignore what the chart's telling you. And if you just look at the 4 hour, Sol closed a nice new 4 hour candle, potentially coming just down for a retest. Hourly looks fine. Kind of looks like it's broken out of this downwards grindy, and is losing steam. So yeah, that's kind of the only potential trade I could give you, really, as the one that looks the best. So yeah, now it's my turn to ask you guys, what are you looking at? What's piquing your interest? Do you need any help with trades? Do you have any questions? Do you want to talk about anything else untrading related? Feel free to chat, come up and chat, or I can look at your altcoins if anything looks interesting. You know, there will be some trades. There will be some trades like this Fartcoin trade, which we all should have taken, really. I mean, like, we were looking at this. We were literally just looking at this on, I think it was Monday, right? No, it must have been yesterday, because it would have been right here. And I was saying, we've got a higher low and a higher high now, so potentially this could be trend change. All you got to do is hold this low, bang, 30% move off it. Damn, I wish I took that, man. That'd been a great trade. But yeah, anyway, let's look at that quickly. Just briefly glaze my eyes over this. Yeah, looks like it could go for a potential round 2. Really needs to break this daily high. Yeah, kind of neither here nor there. Grass had a new local high. Grass. I used to hate this coin when Zeus used to trade it. I just used to hate it for some reason. Yeah, so actually strong bounce off the lows. Nice, definitely created some new lows though. So yeah, those are your lows now. Weekly open, stuff like that. Nice bullish retest in this area. Definitely flipped this sort of whole block. Yeah, can't knock it. Can't knock it. You're at resistance right now. Over here. This is the main one that's probably going to hold you down. If you can somehow sort of like bullishly retest here and make a new high above there, you're going to send it all the way to here, and potentially even like further liquidity up here. I don't really see this getting higher than like 90s, like this area for the time being. But definitely, if this does come back and retest like 3.7, you could catch a really nice trade up to like 75 cents. So yeah, that actually looks good, bro. It's sort of like these sort of things that you kind of want to keep an eye on. Again, it's kind of like just gone straight up. We might have a bit of local breakdown here. So on the very, very low time frame, we could see that potentially there might be a stew overall, like a low time frame one. Yeah, so very, very low time frame break below the level. But I'd be more looking to like wait for daily open retest. Might be interesting. Yeah, or maybe even there. So like 36, 38 cents, somewhere in that area could be a decent retest. Other than that, it's just kind of like probably 85k Bitcoin, unless we do a regain in the yearly open. We might see an underside retest of 100k. Other than that, no change, really. No change at all. Some of these altcoins, I mean, they still do have giga bullish divergence printed on the weekly time frame. But yeah, none of these weekly candles have done any meaningful close since then, really. I mean, we tried to push up on this one 2 weeks ago, and then immediately just got sold back down to new lows. This one, but yeah, some of these coins, you do have to just watch them. So like even Litecoin, this thing has a new local high. If you're expecting it to maybe go for the highs, then you're looking at something like this, where we are right now, to there, as some sort of like last hurrah. Honestly, I don't really feel that bullish at this moment in time, though. However, yeah, I mean, I would like, this is a valid setup because you are bullishly diverging across the 886. Obviously, if you want to trade a little bit safer, you're gonna wait for that and then buy the retest. You don't have to buy the 886, 786 pocket, because technically you're catching a knife with that. But, you know, there's opportunity if you look for it. I think the one I like the most is Sol. And potentially this Litecoin one looks like it wants to do like maybe one more low into the lows here. And then it might do the same thing, like break out of its channel, you know. And that probably could do a test over here around 86.5. Could do with one more low. But, you know, we might be getting close to a little bit of a bounce, to be honest. Although it's just a bit too early to call. One thing I can say is that Solana does look nice for a bounce trade. Just the same way as Farcoin does. And Grass has already also made a new high. So what's actually happening with Bitcoin Dom and others? I mean, that's still doing nothing. I haven't been sleeping that much recently. I've been sleeping like 3 a.m. Yeah, I'm just not that interested in this stuff. So yeah, interesting. That's about all I've got to talk about. Anyone got their eye on anything else or need help with anything, feel free. And yeah, we're gonna have Botmaster soon, so you know what, we might turn one of these weekly streams, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, into like learning how to bot. So if no one knows how to bot, neither do I really. I don't have any experience actually with botting. So and you want to learn about the new, obviously we're gonna have, you know, Ego and stuff doing streams, but you know, I might have to learn how to use the new Botmaster with you guys. And you know, if you're also in a place which has restricted exchanges and stuff like that, you know, it might be quite helpful for you. Because probably the main reason about why people aren't in with botting is, one, because it's too hard to, the accessibility is too hard, and also you might just live in a country like me where it's just really hard to get an exchange and plow and stuff like that. Obviously now we have Hyperliquid, and you know, we're gonna have Botmaster, so it's gonna be way easier, and that should be coming next week or very soon. There should be an announcement maybe tomorrow or over the weekend, and then some big stuff happening with that next week, so that's gonna be fun. And you know, if we are going into a bear market now, this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna keep cascading. We're gonna come all the way down into the lows, and if it looks like this, yeah, straight down, what does that look like? We're potentially gonna rip all the way. I would say that if we do go down to 80k now, we're at least gonna get a test of 100k. You know, potentially all the way up to 115. I think that's a bit far from us right now. I don't see us going higher than 115. The big SR pretty much, if we gained, which was 106, this retest, if we got that back, it would be upside structure. However, I do think, you know, if we go to 80s, probably 80, somewhere in between 100 and 106 retest, and then all the way down into, you know, sub 60, 50s. In here, and potentially even lower. But I forgot what I was going to say. I was going to say, if we are going into a bear market, yeah, we could just learn how to pot in the meantime. Not a problem. Although it's slightly too early to say that we are in a bear market, we're just in a very, very harsh daily downtrend from an all-time high, which is why it feels like it could be the start of it. However, we just haven't really broken. Like, if we break these lows here, then yeah, we've got an overall high time frame downtrending structure in the market. But until then, you're actually expecting this to bounce and make a new high, because if you're doing this off like simple price action and market theory, these are the lows that you potentially want to hold, you're looking to bounce from, and these are obviously the highs. You know, like, you're looking for this to bounce up to the highs at least. Like, that's what you would be expecting. Obviously, it's probably not going to happen that way, but you know, that's what you would be expecting, is a bounce from here. But anyway, I think that's about it for today. Let's stop.